It's that time of year again, guys. It is Christmas book review time. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On the channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another book review for you, and it is a Scandinavian Christmas festive tales for a Nordic Noel. If you guys aren't new to my channel, you'll know I bought this for Matt about 3 years ago as a stocking filler book. It isn't a vlog. If you haven't seen that, the link is above me now. But it's essentially short stories, all from Nordic authors regarding Christmas, and it's so cute. Look at that. It's a very cute read. It's very short. It has 16 short stories, all by various different Nordic authors. Honestly, it's a stocking filler. So as always in my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. I'm going to try to do a spoiler-free review because they're all so short, so I won't tell you too much about it. I have given each short story a mark out of 10, and then the overall score for the book is all of those scores added together and made into a percentage. Let's read the blurb. Before we get into that, don't forget to like, receive, and subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Blurb time. Have yourself a truly Scandinavian Christmas. Of visions and prophecies seen in dark, dark woods, of toys and trees come to life, of trolls raising chaos, and of families torn apart, only to be brought back together by festive cheer. In this collection, classic tales from Hans Christian Andersen and Nobel Prize winner Selma Lagerlöf blend with modern-day stories from Karl Ove Knausgaard and Vigdis Hjorth. Each touches on the warm and wild spirit of Christmas, where the coziness and contentment of the season can often give way to the unexpected, magical, and sometimes mystical. A smorgasbord of strange literary gifts, let a Scandinavian Christmas transport you to a winter wonderland in which fantasy, the fantastic, and the festive combine for your reading delight. So it sounds like a super easy read. All the stories are really, really short. It doesn't take you long to read them. It's a good sort of flit in and out of book, especially during Christmas week, you know, when you're visiting family, when you have relatives and friends visiting you all the time. So you don't get a lot of sit-down reading time to get into a good gripping story. This is great just for a little story before you go to bed, or just as you wake up for some alone time. If you get 10 minutes just to sit by yourself, this is the kind of read you need for that. What is also interesting about this book is it has various different authors in it, some older, some modern, but in the back of the book, it also gives information on each author. So it tells you the dates that they were writing and a little bit about them as well, which is really useful and interesting. Lets you kind of know what you're expecting almost from the author. But with that, let's get into it. So the first story in this was A Christmas Guest by Selma Lagerlöf, and they are from Sweden. It was a sweet story about learning to live in a new life and about acceptance. So this author is actually a teacher and a poet, and I feel like the first story is really kind of autobiographical in a way. You'll see if you read it, but it's about someone who is an orchestrator for music, and there's not so much work in that. They go from house to house in the winter. No one wants them because they have drinking problems, things like that. And yeah, it's a really sweet, heartwarming story about acceptance and learning and development. Selma is the first female author to win a Nobel Prize, which is interesting, so I gave this story 8 out of 10 stars. The second story is A Legend of Mercy, and this is by Zacharias Topelius. Sorry, I'm going to butcher all these names, I do apologise. And they are from Finland. So this is a tale of sharing and of being grateful. It's a lovely tale. The author was Finnish, but they wrote in Swedish and became a Finnish national bestseller. This one I thought was really sweet because I think there must be a tradition in Nordic countries of feeding the birds for Christmas and for New Year. And I believe that's a theme that crops up quite a lot in all these short stories. And that's really what this one's about. And it was just a really sweet learning story, I think, of showing mercy, of gratitude, of sharing. So I gave it 8 out of 10 stars. Third story is called The Fur Coat, and this is by Helma Soderberg from Sweden. I'm really sorry about these names, I really am. So this one was very sad for me. It also perfectly aligns with the sentence about the author. So the author says, I believe in the lust of the flesh and the incurable isolation of the soul. Take that as you will. I will not give you any spoilers, but that is a quote from the author, and the fur coat really reflects that. It is about a doctor who is down on their luck. They don't get many repeat patients, which is a great thing when you're a doctor, not a great thing for your purse. They have a family, and it's generally about how the world perceives you based on what you have and what you wear and what you can buy with money, rather than who you are. I didn't like this story very much. Now, I liked its meaning. I didn't like the end, and I don't like the quote from the author either. I won't say too much of why, because it would give you too much of the story away, but I gave it 5 out of 10. It is written really well. That is for personal reasons. It's a topic I don't like to read about, so that's why I personally didn't like it. If that doesn't trigger you, you might like it, but I can't tell you what it is, because it is basically the whole point of that story. Story number 4 is The Emperor's Vision by Selma Lagerlöf. So it's the second story from this Nobel Prize winning female author. It's something, again, that repeats. So Selma does another story later on which repeats this kind of theme, but from another point of view. It's basically the nativity story from a completely different point of view, which I did find really interesting and refreshing. I did like the main protagonist, who is called Sybil. I loved them. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Again, this is mainly for my personal enjoyment reasons. I'm not religious. I know the nativity stories. I'm from a Christian family, so I know them. I've been to church, but I'm not into them. I know it. I don't believe in it. So it doesn't have the desired effect it's supposed to have on me, if that makes sense. If you are Christian or Catholic, you'll probably really like this story and Selma's later story. Just for me, it's written really well. It is a good story. It's just the subject matter isn't for me. The 5th story in this book is called The Fir Tree, and this is by Hans Christian Andersen, who is from Denmark. Hans Christian Andersen is an author I presume we all know. So The Fir Tree, I finally know where the story of Christopher the Christmas Tree came from. I grew up in the 90s. That was a cartoon that came out one Christmas. It might even be older than the 90s that cartoon came out, but it was a short animation about Christopher the Christmas Tree, which is about a fir tree who's always left behind. They're never chopped down, and they want to know where all their friends are going, and they want to be a part of it. This is where that story comes from, and oh my god, it's way darker than obviously the Christopher the Christmas Tree is. But you'd expect that, because all Hans Christian Andersen stories are generally tragic. It's tragic, but I did give it 10 out of 10. It's about appreciating every moment, and I did really enjoy this one. The next story is called Another Star, and this is by Ingvar Aborsten, who's from Norway. It's an interesting LSD trip, guys. That's basically what it is. I have a quote here for you, which is, "We had no idea where we were, just that we found ourselves at quite a distance from the social democratic control system, where 2 and 2 had a nasty habit of turning into 4. Now, this is a modern author. It is literally an LSD trip, but it is a really interesting LSD trip. I thought it was good. I gave it 7 out of 10 stars for this one. I'm not generally into reading about drug trips personally, but it is interesting. Next story is called Round the Yule Log, and this is by Peter Christian Abjørsen from Norway. I wasn't that keen on the structure. It's a short story about a load of short stories. That's what I didn't like. The short stories themselves were interesting. It's a lot of shorts in a short. So I gave it 7 out of 10 stars. We then have The Forest Witch by Johan Kron from Denmark. It was a sweet story by a Danish author about flowers and a witch who cannot take you if a flower is still in bloom. So it's a very heartwarming tale about appreciating each petal and growth. I gave it 6 out of 10 stars. I think I kind of knew how it was going to end, so it wasn't that gripping for me, but it is very sweet, and again, just a story about appreciation. We then have Father Christmas by Carl of Narsgaard from Norway. This one was the shortest so far, I mean short. It was a sweet tale about 2 fathers doing their best for their children at Christmas, and I wouldn't say it was gripping, but it was nice. I gave it 6 out of 10. Bit more of a modern story as well, more modern author. We then have the one we all knew would be in this book, The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. I knew this story, I'd never read it, so I was really happy to finally read it. It's a famous Christmas tale. I prefer the Hogfather version, I must say. If you haven't seen my review on the Hogfather, that link is above me now. Much prefer that version for the poor matchstick girl, but Hans Christian Andersen is the original. and it's very sad. It's tragic. 6 out of 10 stars. I want the Christmas ones to have something heartwarming in them and something nice, not just tragedy. We then have The Legend of the Christmas Rose by Selma Lagerlöf. This is the third one by Selma. This one had a really good meaning and good imagery, but for some reason it didn't gel with me. But I think that may be because I read it literally straight after The Little Match Girl, so I read a lot in one go. I think I was still hung up on that one, so I gave it 6 out of 10. We then have The Birdcatchers by Hans Arend. This links to what I was saying earlier on of Nordic country. Please tell me if I'm misjudging your traditions here. But it's another one that feels like one of the Christmas traditions is to feed the birds and look after the birds. Because in The Birdcatcher, as a vegetarian, it was a nice read. Take from that as you will. It was heartwarming, about empathy for the wild birds. And it's just nice. I gave it 7 out of 10. It's not a standout, but do comment down below if you're from a Nordic country. Is there a tradition about feeding the birds and looking after the wildlife at Christmas time? We then have another one we will all be very, very aware of, The Brave Tin Soldier by Hans Christian Andersen. I was so happy to read this because, again, it's one that I know the story, have never read it. I love all the adaptations of this, so I was really happy to read it. It does have a lot of toxic masculinity in it. It is an old book, so that's kind of expected. It's the Tin Soldier, they're not allowed to show emotions, things like that. But it was very interesting to see how much of the original story remained in the versions that I know. I gave it 7 out of 10 stars. We then have The Holy Night, which is the 4th Selma story. This one is another nativity one from another point of view. So again, interesting. However, it doesn't get me as my personal choice as a reader. But if you are into nativity stories, you'll probably like this. I gave it 6 out of 10 stars. And finally, with 2 stories left, we have Christmas Eve by Vigdis Hjorth from Norway. This one is a modern author and it's from 2015. It was a very sad one about addiction. It's written extremely well and it actually reminded me of Stephen King's book on writing. Stephen King is a really famous author who did suffer from alcoholism. I believe this writer was also writing their own experience with alcohol, and apparently a lot of her work is autobiographical. I think this might be true. So I gave it 10 out of 10. It's not a subject I enjoy reading about, but it was written very well. And finally, the last story is Giants in the Earth by O.E. Rolvag, who is Norway-United States. For this one, it seems this short may be a snippet taken from an actual novel about Norwegians travelling to America and how their lives began when they moved across there. It's quite terrifying and ultimately is a story about childbirth. When I first started reading it, I thought it was a story about mental health, if I'm honest. So it's written quite scarily. I gave it 8 out of 10 stars. It might be quite triggering for some people. Just a warning on that one. So overall with this book, it was an okay read. I'm not going to say I would tell everyone to grab it off the shelves personally. However, it's a really good stocking filler. So if you see it and you just want a stocking filler for someone, it's really good for that. I will be passing this book on and around my family for that reason, so they can all read it and pass it on as well. It's good to know where some of these tales come from. It's also interesting because you're reading tales of traditions from other cultures, which is sweet. It's a mix of modern and old, so I liked it. Overall, I gave it 6.25 out of 10 stars. It was okay. That was this book here. I mean, it's very pretty, so it works as a stocking filler. Pass it around if you have a copy of it, I would recommend. And that's it for this Christmassy book review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like what you see. If you did like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If I see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post my bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. I hope you guys did enjoy this. Good stocking filler if you're in the market for a book nerd who might just be interested in reading the originals of some of these famous Christmas short stories. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!